Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DePIN Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Trowbridge. I'm thrilled to have Gaurav here, the CTO of io.net, one of the kind of core projects in the decentralized compute space. Welcome, Gaurav.
Nice to meet you, Tom, and pleasure to be here.
Listen, let's get right into it. Tell us what io.net does for people that aren't familiar.
So, io.net is a decentralized platform io.net is a decentralized platform which is there to facilitate the AI development. When we started our project, we wanted to start from a value set where it's extremely difficult to compete with us for any player in the world, be it centralized or decentralized. And we thought and we believe that that particular value set would be GPUs. So we started our journey from providing the most decentralized compute there in the market at the cheapest price. Our availability, our stock, and our prices were like second to none. That's why we started. And then slowly and steadily, now we've started to grow ourselves as an AI ecosystem. Uh, so, with the way we see it as a platform is a three-layered platform. The first layer is data, the second layer is model building, and third is application. Where we started from was the model building, which is the second layer. This is a place where you provide tools and infrastructure for the AI builders to create models, to train models. And then now we are venturing into is the application layer, which is the third layer, where you basically allow developers to deploy their models and apps in a decentralized way, which basically is enabling dapps, right? So we started with the second layer, which is model building. We 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 basically provided these builders the cheapest compute there in the world, available in different nooks and corners of the world at extremely high speed with the best of internet at literally zero cost. And once we did that, we started providing them software layers which enable any builders to actually use these GPUs in different part of the world as, let's say, one cluster. And we provided that cloud solution as a recluster. A lot of people who are new to this tech may not be up to speed, but we actually created our own version of Ray, which enables these builders to create a cluster where GPUs from, let's say, North America, Brazil, India could be considered as a single set of a cluster, and they can access it like seamlessly. That's where we started from. And now we are launching a new product which is called IO Intelligence, which will enable these builders to deploy their models at a very cheap price. In fact, zero cost in the beginning for a limited time. And then we are also creating a platform as a part of this IO Intelligence, which basically enables these builders to just focus on the model creation part. There's a big amount of effort which goes in for any builder, which we call MLOps. Like, how do you deploy a model? How do you scale multiple machines and instances of GPU when you want to scale? All these problems will be abstracted away for these builders. And that's the new layer which we're building. And once we do this, then we'll focus on the third layer, which is called data layer, where we will allow multiple providers of data to give us their data and get incentivization as a part of it. We'll have attribution of this data to different owners, and any builder who will build on top of this data, the whole ecosystem will benefit, and people who are giving this data also will be incentivized, which is not the case today in many of the centralized solutions. So, long story short, we are here to build a one-stop solution for AI builders.
Wow. All right. Well, that there's a lot to get into there. So let's just decompose that a little bit because there's a lot for people to absorb. So the GPU marketplace was sort of the first step, right? And
That's correct.
so maybe first, and then you've effectively moved up the value chain from market hardware marketplace to services to value add kind of platform on top of that, which is really a fascinating and very fast move up the stack from what I can understand. So could you start by telling, just back up a little bit and talk about GPUs, why, what's special about GPUs, why is their marketplace, why are they, more cost effective on a platform like ioNet, and then we can kind of get into the benefits and the tools that you build on top of that marketplace.
GPUs basically stand for graphical processing units, right? And they play a pivotal role in any AI development, right? In a very naive way, you can think of it as that when you create a model, you basically throw them a bunch of data as input, and you tell the model this is the output. And when we say that this model is getting trained, what exactly is happening in the background is that this model is creating a formula but trying different computation combinations to create this matured formula in the background when we say this model is getting trained. And as a part of this training process, there's a lot of computation happening in the background. And these GPUs is exactly used for that. These GPUs enable us to do a lot of these computation in parallel at a very, very high speed. So a normal training of a model, which may take a day at a normal hardware, these GPUs may enable you to do it in like less than 10 minutes. That's the kind of efficiency you get, right? That's why they're very, very important. Now, the second question is why it is important, why they are becoming so popular nowadays. So you can imagine that in early 90s, when there was a mom and pop store and they wanted to scale their business, the only way to do it was that you open multiple stores of your business. That was the only way to scale up. Then the internet came, and then people started to create these online websites like Amazon's of the world, priceline.com's of the world, and so on and so forth, right? Which gave that economy of scale for these builders and these founders to scale up the business. Now there's a new era of AI. When I, as a founder, have X dollar of money to be invested in my business to get a ROI, there are a lot of problems which could be easily solved by AI, by which either you would not need to spend same amount of manpower or same amount of dollar investment, which we used to do it in past if we start to use our AI products. For example, let's say you're a business which do hotel bookings, and for example you do 100 bookings. Out of 100 bookings, 5 bookings always have issues, and historically what you do, you have a customer support team. If you do 100 bookings, 5 have issues. Let's say for each issue you have one customer agent which you have hired, so you have 5 customer agent. Let's assume that your business start to scale from 100 bookings to 1000, so your issues increase from 5 to 50. That means now you don't have 5 customer support engineers, you have to hire 50. That's a dollar impact on the business, right? Now imagine when you have these AI tools, these models where you can do the same amount of work which these 50 of these folks were doing with only 2 people, right? Let's say earlier you were hiring these customer support people for Japanese language, for English, for Spanish, and now you have a model which can like enable these customer support engineers to basically be only knowing one language, but they can handle the queries of any language from any part of the world, right? Look at the amount of efficiency you can gain as a team, and this dollar value saved you can invest in any other place in your business to get a high ROI and innovate more, right? And this thing is now being realized by a lot of other founders. And now it's a race where people have realized that in future there'll be two kind of companies. One who use AI, and two who don't use AI, and they'll wither out over a period of time, right? And because people have realized it, there's a huge amount of investment going in this AI innovation space, and hence the foundation block for this AI is GPUs, and hence there's a dearth of it, right? There's another part of it is to create these GPUs. There's a huge amount of investments which goes into the technology part of creating the GPUs itself, right? And for myriad of reasons, not a lot of companies in the world have invested in the side. Nvidia was one of them which did, and they succeeded. And practically, we are at a place right now that there's Nvidia, which is the market leader, which is basically creating almost majority of the high performance GPUs in the world. And this also creates a problem that all these popular models and performance models is coming from a single company, and hence the velocity of production of these hardware is also not to the optimal speed. Plus, there is a part of it anyhow that the natural raw materials which are needed to create these GPUs are also have its own like supply issues and so on and so forth, right? So there's a scarcity of it. There's a demand part of it which I explained, and the third thing is a lot of these centralized companies like Google's and OpenAI's have already having a first mover advantage. And what they're doing is because they have a first mover advantage and they have a power of money, a lot of these models which these NVIDIA of the world are creating, they're getting pre-booked by these centralized players, and this scarce resource is becoming even more scarce for the community overall, right? And that's where people and the companies like us which come in picture, that because this resource is scarce and a lot of these centralized players know about it, like Amazons, the Googles and all, they're charging the premium for this hardware. And because of this premium cost, the innovation is not going at a speed which ideally it should be. And that's why we came and started building this platform where we take up this hardware from every part of the world where it's available and give it at a very very uh, like a efficient cost so that the innovation go at a speed which is ideal to the community.
If GPUs are a scarce resource, then how is can pricing be low? Why would pricing? How could any platform offer low pricing if the resource is scarce and in high demand?
It's a good question, and a lot of people get confused by this. Uh, let's take an example, right? Because there's a question of availability, and then there's a question of scale in this. There are multiple variables in this one question itself, right? But let's take a practical example, right? Let's say you go to New York and you go to Marriott, and you say we have 5 team members, we need 5 rooms, and let's say Marriott doesn't have 5 rooms right now. Then you move ahead, you go to Hyatt Regency, right? And you say, Hyatt, I need 5 rooms. And let's say for whatever reason, it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas, you don't get 5 rooms there. You've gone to two players, Marriott and Hyatt. You didn't find 5 rooms. What does it mean? Does it mean that there are no 5 rooms there in the whole New York? It's not the case, right? It's just that how these priceline.com, booking.coms, Airbnbs have created these platforms where they've aggregated this inventory. Nobody has done this thing in the GPU space yet, right? And we are one of the early movers in this space and we are innovating in this side. That's the first thing, right? Now, there's another aspect to it also. Now imagine, which is the price aspect. I tried to answer you for availability aspect, that there is this notion that like availability of GPUs is not there. That's not true. There are a bunch of GPUs there with tier 2, tier 3 data centers and a lot of community users which could be rented out, but nobody has taken pains to create a platform to aggregate this inventory and be given to people, right? Now the cost part and the scale part. Now imagine that you're a data center and you're doing a great business with my company. And let's say you were giving me GPUs in New York, and suddenly my company scaled out, and now we have an office in Singapore. And I ask you, Tom, give me 1,000 GPUs in Singapore. Now, for you to get that work done, you have to hire a place in Singapore, you have to hire a team in Singapore, you have to buy the hardware, right? You have to buy all the internet, like bunch of things, right, to get that data center enabled in Singapore, right? Now that adds a lot of capex to your business. Now to take care of that part, what would you do? Obviously you will pass on that cost to the user. And that's what exactly these centralized players do. That when they want to scale out, they personally want to own the inventory, the capex goes higher, and they pass on this cost to almost always to the user. And that's why that cost for GPUs keep increasing over a period of time. Now, all that cost is not in our business because we are building a product as part of decentralization concept, right? We take this hardware from the community, this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? We don't have this part of renting a place, hiring a team. For us, our stack is ready, software stack is ready. If you want to add like 1,000 more GPUs, one more box for scaling our tech stack, we're there. And that's what enables us to give the hardware at a very cheap price. And plus, because we work in this model, our economy of scale is much better than the centralized player. The iteration of, let's say, this business model. Now, you want to do it in Singapore, I can do it in no time. You want to do it in, let's say, North America, I can do it in no time. India, I can do it in no time. So the iteration speed for us as a business is far higher than a lot of these centralized players also.
It totally makes sense. And I think the other thing that sort of relates to that, which I've heard, is that because of the scarcity, in a funny way, you end up with excess in a way that companies have to over order in order to, because of where the demand is forecast. So they take delivery of more GPUs than they have use for right away. And so they're left with excess that they don't intend to use for some period of time. And you guys help them monetize that excess that they've effectively been forced to order because they are unsure about the ability to take delivery at some point in the future and what the ability to order more in the future will be. So they sort of front load their orders to have a higher degree of certainty, and then they're left with excess. And you guys come and say, okay, we can help you monetize that excess for some period of time until you need it. Is that fair?
And that's absolutely correct, right? And it's not just about the excess. A lot of times, even if you order the right amount, that right amount of GPUs was the case for you at that particular point in time. For example, let's say you were building a ranking model for a hotel industry or a personalization model for a hotel industry, right? You wanted these X amount of GPUs to create these models at that point in time. Let's say in a month or 2 months, you created that model. Now the model is matured. Now it wants to improve itself on a daily basis, but for that improvement it doesn't need same amount of
Fair
processing power,
enough.
right? Now the same inventory which you bought earlier is not needed now,
Fair
even if you
enough.
did a good job
Interesting.
in the beginning, which a lot of companies don't do. But even if you do, like in couple of months, 3 months, there's a lot of times we have seen in our business that there's amount of GPUs which are not needed by these companies going forward. And those hardwares, which are basically like world class high hardware, enterprise grade hardware with very, very high uptime, lying there unused, which we enable other people to, to be using. And these companies get paid for it also.
Yep. Interesting, fascinating. So then talk about, that's the marketplace, and you help aggregate this. So to your Airbnb example, if there's one, company has five excess H100s in New York, and a different company has two in, Denver, and another has three in Buenos Aires, you can create, a 10 whatever cluster that then which is useful to a client that's looking for 10. So then, which is super valuable. But now talk about the software and services layer you're building on top of it, which is what you started off discussing regarding kind of moving up the stack in terms of value add for AI builders and generation.
So I think what we wanted to have right from day one as a company was uh, a one-stop solution for the whole AI ecosystem. That was the grand vision, and our plan is like we have like a plan internally in the company for years going forward, right? But we wanted to start from a place where one value set where we cannot be beaten, and we lock in our customers on that value set, and then we start to add more values in this tech stack, so that once we attract a customer, they never ever feel to go out of our ecosystem ever, right? That's a plan. So as you rightly said, the first value set was the GPUs, the availability of GPUs from different part of the world at a very cheap price. Now, the second thing which we did was we created this product known as a cloud product, where we have different techs like Ray cluster, Kubernetes cluster, where we enable to create a cluster on top of these GPUs. And for a builder, they don't have to like think of it as a individual units of GPUs, but as a single software layer which they have to interact with now, right? There's a second layer which we created. And now what we are going into and we are building is what we call as IO intelligence, And what it does uh, is basically enable you to deploy your models in a very efficient way, scale the models in a very efficient way, where you have to not even think of ML operations at all. When we were doing our homework on AI agents recently, what we realized was that there's so much of hard work which have gone in uh, by a lot of developers, where they have created this high performance models, but there is no player in the market which have any incentive to give these models to be access to people. There is none, right? In Hugging Face, there are so many popular models lying there, like unused. There are so many other like models created by Meta, which are there, which could be used by people lying there, like not given to the community. So what we thought was that we have this big inventory of GPUs. Why don't we enable the community to start using these models and all the hard work which have been done by these people before us, so that as a community we grow? So now what we're launching is this IO intelligence. And in that phase one, what we'll do is we will give people the access to these models almost for free, right? That's first.
And
Now
to models,
to
not to
models.
GPUs, but to models.
Models, and they can deploy these models on our GPUs for free, and people can use it, right? And then the second phase of this product would be that we are creating a tech stack as a phase two of this IO intelligence, where as a builder you can come for a certain period of time for free, rent a GPU, uh, create a model, train your model, uh, fine tune your model, and then deploy a model, right? And if the model is high performing, a lot of people are using it, then we'll create a tokenomics around it also, where these builders are incentivized to keep building on the platform also over there. So we are creating a whole economy around this AI ecosystem, where builders are motivated to come and start contributing to the whole AI ecosystem. And if they do a good job, they get incentivized for doing that work, and the community also gets a lot of benefit for free.
Really interesting. I mean, that this brings up a question that I have sort of debated with or discussed with the Jensen guys a little bit, which is, do we have a future world where you have a large number of very specifically targeted AI models, or do you have a world of one or two mega sort of models? Like, does ChatGPT or XAI see, oh, that model looks like it's doing something interesting, and it just can like absorb and do the exact same thing because of the massive resources it has, or there are specific tasks that will actually be a small model could be competitive in versus these, there's a particular name, super models or whatever they are.
So internally in the company, we thought a bit differently. So there was a long debate which happened in the company, that should we create our own AI agent? Um, if we do, which one to create? Is it a LLM? Is it a SLM? Right? Or should we create a platform? Right? And then we introspected. And when we introspected, we thought about what are the strengths, right? Our strengths are basically as a team is to create platforms. So now either we can play a game, a bit of speculation, where we take a bet that this is a model which will be successful in the future and let's build it, or we can do the work which is our strength, which is creating platforms. So we deferred to the later. We thought we are builders and we have a strength in creating platforms. And that's what we decided, that we will build our IO intelligence platform, which will enable these model creators, builders to come to our platform and build whatever they want, whether it's the LLM, is the SLM, whatever they want, right? And we'll be there to help them out. We'll not be biased, and that's what we are great at, right? There's no stopping in future. We venture into the AI agent space also, but looking at our strength right now and how we can add the maximum value in the least amount of time, we thought that we can make a difference as a part of the platform givers, and that's what we are working on currently internally in the company.
Super interesting. Let's back up for a second and talk about Gaurav. What's your background? How did you join? What's your path and journey to where you are now?
Uh, I'm in the industry for 15 plus years. I started with few startups, mostly in Linux kernel and file system in India. Then I moved to HP R&D. I was part of the very core team which helped HP R&D build their network file system, v4.1. I was part of that team. Then I moved to Amazon, where I was part of the publishing pipeline product of Amazon, which now caters to your Audible books, your ebooks, multiple other products now. And then I was part of the eBay platform team. Then I was in the leadership team of Agoda. It's a big OT player in the Asian side of things, in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. So I was part of the whole backend leadership team for 3 years, and then 3 years in the AI and ML space for them. And then I ventured into the crypto space, where I was part of Binance leadership for around 2 years. Uh, as a part of this journey, uh, I think I learned both how to create scalable solutions. Then I learned how to make data driven approaches. And then, as a part of my journey during Agoda and both Binance time, I realized that how important GPUs are. And a lot of time when you need it, and even if you have money to basically buy it, you'll not get it at time. And a lot of time not at the quality of the GPUs which you want also. Maybe you want H100, but it's not there. You have to compromise with a lower grade hardware, right? And I practically saw that problem on ground. And then when Ahmed, Garrison, and Bassem and Tori spoke to me during my interview process, I realized that how passionate they are about the problem and what their plan is to tackle this problem. And I was practically seeing this problem from years, and I could literally correlate to it that yes, there is a problem, and there's nobody working on solving it at scale. And the energy which these guys had was tremendous. So for me, it like I didn't even literally honestly take an hour also to make a decision that this is the right team to be part of, and this is the right problem to solve also and become a part of. So I just took a leap of faith. It was very hard to move out of Binance because one of the best jobs I've been part of, great team, great tech, great space. But this problem was something very lucrative in terms of, as an engineer, like you always look for a very specific problem which nobody is focusing on, and you want to solve it for the community. I saw it as that problem as an engineer, and the moment I thought that there's a right team who's focused on it, I just jumped on.
Well, that's terrific. I mean, listen, it sounds like we could have um, a whole episode just on your background and certainly on some of the Binance elements, because that is, I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting components and stories to come from that experience. Tell us about what it sounds like this opportunity, though, wouldn't have existed even 2 years ago, right? So you needed to have both AI get to a level, GPU use get to a level, and GPU sort of understanding get to a level. And then you also had to have the software technology that creates allows you to create a network, right? To put these clusters to create these clusters. And
Yeah,
then there's a
absolutely.
token and there's a whole token economics piece, right? So it sort of feels like not like a lot of things in DePIN, this wasn't possible just a couple years ago. You think that's right?
It's absolutely correct. So a lot of times you are way too early in the tech. You'll not believe I was working on InfiniBand almost 13 years back, right? And nobody was working on it. We were way too early, and now InfiniBand is literally powering all these GPUs in the background today. And I was working on like 13 years back, and I was like, who will use it? Like literally, when I used to face problems in InfiniBand, like I'll Google for the problem, and there'll be nothing on the net. There's this one book which used to exist. Sometimes you can be that early, and you're bang on correct that DePIN was in the same space a couple of years back. That uh, there were some people who were already solving the deepen, but the demand wasn't there. I think the demand has come in now with the success of chat GPTs and perplexities of the world now. And now when people are catching up that yes, AI can make a drastic improvement in their business, and now they're hopping on to the AI game, and that's creating the scarcity which we discussed about. And hence now, as a business, the demand part of the thing is coming in. So now deepen as a business makes sense now. The tech existed 4 years back also. You will find a couple of players who would be solving this problem in their own way 4 years back also. But as a business, it makes much more sense now. That's first, right? Second, in terms of the technological solutions also, like even the blockchain for that matter has improved vastly in past 3 years, right? Like we are working on Solana, and it's working like seamlessly as a product for us, right? And a lot of people were saying that Solana was good years back, but not to a level which it is now. So that part has caught up, right? Thirdly, even the hardware itself, the quality of hardware which the community guys like you and me now have wasn't the case 4 years back, right? Like a hardware which cost $30,000, H100, wasn't owned by people earlier. Like H100 wouldn't be there like years back. But the point I'm saying making is like nobody would even think of buying such costly hardware in past. But now a lot of community people have it, so they can source it to you, and you can create DePIN around it, right? Like a lot of people are, when they're investing in these GPUs, so much as the example you gave, a lot of companies, they overhire, and hence you have this overcapacity lying there. All these problems were not there earlier, which we are taking advantage of. So as a business, it makes sense now. Technology has caught up, right? Blockchain and everything. People are looking up to DePIN because we have solved these problems in a very seamlessly efficient way. Like for example, in case of IO, we were always creating this way of hiring GPUs like any Web2 company would do as a seamless product. Like if you bring in a Web2 guy to hire a GPU on our platform, they'll not even realize that they're working on a Web3 platform. Now, this ethos and this product thinking wasn't there 4 years back. It's now. Earlier, people were just focusing on the Web3 technology part. They were not thinking that much on the user side of things. And that mentality shift has happened in the last few years. So that part has also got matured in the industry. So we have actually like shifted our vision also in a way that whether it be a Web3 player or a Web2 player, if they come to a platform, they shouldn't even like feel that they are working with a Web3 platform. It should be seamless for them, right? So all these things have enabled uh, users from every part of the world, every kind of industry to come and start using these platforms. And I think that's what will make what do you call that crypto usage to increase also over a period of time. I genuinely believe gaming and DePIN will be the two industries which will take the crypto usage to the masses and will be a genuine business also.
I agree with half of that, which is DePIN will take it to the masses. We've been waiting for gaming to take it to the masses for literally every single year is going to be the year of gaming. I've heard that so many times and it still hasn't happened. So I'm stopped making that bet a long time ago. But I'm fully in on the DePIN bet. Question for you on this though. We on Fluence, we agree sort of intensely that this is we're using basically blockchain crypto web3 where we need it and not as a solution looking for a problem. And so we have two pagers that don't even mention crypto, blockchain, anything. And so we haven't yet implemented yet, but a fiat front end is coming. And so the idea is you should be able to use Fluence, have no idea, no knowledge that is not hidden. It's just you just don't need to know how it works. Sort of like you turn on a PC, you don't really care whether, unless you're super sophisticated, what chip is inside or who made it. And so that's kind of agree with that as the approach for sure. I think that's how we scale is by becoming easy to use, so people don't even know you're using it. Like that's I think what all of our objectives in Web3 is for sure. Question though to you, which is related to all of this, related to Web3, that obviously is token related and blockchain related. And so what then is can you walk through the token economics and how you've set up ioNet from a token economics perspective so that those who do want to dig into it understand how that ecosystem is structured and how it works?
So with respect to tokenomics, I think you can go to io.net. There's a documentation tab at the top. You can go there, and we have actually shared the whole document on tokenomics. But in a very nutshell, in a very brief, What we're building in our side is a genuine business where anybody who wants to create a AI product will come to our platform, and every access to that product is gated by IO token. So if you want to hire a GPU, if you want to build a model, deploy a model, scale in future at very high scale for masses, all these product will be gated by a IO token. And like just a month back, like I think a couple of months back, our revenue was I think less than 2-3 million, if I'm not wrong. And within a quarter, we are around between 15 and 20 million dollar in $1 million in T&E, and it's going to exponentially increase. So the usage is increasing, and when your usage is increasing exponentially, and the product is gated by the IO token, you can just imagine how the demand of the token will also increase, right? So I think that's what I'll say in a nutshell. If you need more detail, there's a whole section of like tokenomics there on the website itself.
Well, and that token is used, I totally grasp. But just as a question, is there a stake component to it to provide
There's a
trust,
stake
or
component
is
to it
it?
also. So when somebody comes and gives us an inventory, the revenue or the reward which they get is in terms of IO tokens. When they come and they give us inventory, we want to make sure that the quality of the hardware is good, and if the quality of the hardware maybe is good now but not in future, or and for like for multiple reasons to make sure that we have a quality hardware and do the right gatekeeping, we basically stake tokens as a part of getting the supply in and enabling these guys as part of our inventory. And for that they have to stake IO tokens. For different kind of hardware we have different amount of tokens which are needed, so that is also part of our tokenomics.
Yeah, and I believe, if I know correctly, you guys stake is the providers are required to stake. It's not the community doesn't stake,
Uh,
right?
that's true right now, but that would not be the case in the near future. We have already built a platform like this month, and it's actually literally under a security review currently with third parties. And I think hopefully within a couple of weeks, we'll be able to roll it out where we are creating a marketplace wherein, for example, let's say Tom is there and Tom is bringing 1,000 H100s, for example, and let's say for each uh, H100 we need 2,000 tokens to stake. So 2,000 into 100, if you're giving 100, right, 200,000 tokens you have to give. And let's say you don't have that money right now to be given to us and buy the hardware, buy the coins and stake it, right? So in that case you can go to the community, create an offer on the platform, and then share depending on your needs, that for this amount of tokens help, what percentage of block rewards you're willing to share with the community. And then this particular uh, like ask will be put in the marketplace, and then any person in the community can come in and fulfill that request of yours, and they'll become a partner of yours, and then you both will share the rewards. And this other party doesn't need to be a supplier, they could be anyone in the community.
Awesome. And how then? And block rewards are divided by quality of machine, effectively. So H100 gets a certain type of reward, and the rewards have some schedule that reduces over time, presumably.
That is correct. So we have a multiplier for each kind of hardware, and depending on the multiplier on an hourly basis, we emit a certain amount of tokens to a specific model, GPU model, and depending on how much you have created. For example, let's say let's make a simple use case, right? Let's say you only have one H100 which needs 2,000 tokens. uh, you can come to the platform and say I only have 1,000 tokens, I'll stake 1,000 I need help from somebody in the community, and for 1,000 tokens I am willing to share 20% of my rewards. So on an hourly basis, whatever you would be earning normally, you will get 80% of the rewards, 20% will be given to the respective community member who's helping you out, and that percentage you can tweak it by yourself.
Understood. Yep. Yeah. I mean, Fluence, we've same thing where each provider, provider by provider, can effectively changed what we call the delegation reward rate, right? So that's from 20, 30, whatever it is. And there's also durations, and so there's different things. So I totally, that to me makes a ton of sense. Really, really interesting. Well, listen, I love that talk now. We've talked about tokenomics. So help us understand, how big can this be, right? Everyone knows AI is growing exponentially. So paint the blue sky picture. What's the opportunity for ioNet? How big can you be? Help us understand the sort of the scale that's possible here.
Potentially speaking, not in next 2 years, but in the coming years, the way we are innovating and building, there is no reason for us not to be similar to Amazon in this space or bigger. Now, for some people, it may seem impractical, but I can give an example, right? For instance, today, if you see practically a valuation as of today, let's say for Expedia, uh, I think it's in the range of $20-25 billion, somewhere there today. And if you go to Airbnb, the valuation would be more than $80 billion right now. And if you would have asked somebody like years back when Airbnb wasn't there, that somebody will create a platform where they'll not rent hotels, they'll rent homes, they'll say, you're nuts. Like that model will not succeed. And then on top of that, if you would have said, no, no, they'll be bigger than Expedia of the world, you will say, no, not possible. But that's where Airbnb went. And practically speaking, that's where we are seeing our business also going. Like literally this week, there was a Web2 player which has more than 200 million users on their platform, which came to us to take GPUs and CPUs both, right? And this game is a game of a flywheel, right? Once it starts to rotate, the demand just keeps organically improving. Because let's say you're a founder and you were taking like the resources from AWS and you were paying $8 for a specific model of a GPU on an hourly basis, right? And now you pay $2. Now, let's say there's another friend of yours from your college who has opened his own startup. What will happen when you'll be having a dinner with them or a lunch with them? You'll say, you know what? I saved almost like $10 million this year by not renting it from the centralized players, but from this DePIN. And then that friend of yours will say, really? Let me try it out. They'll come to our platform, we'll try the hardware with a smaller lot for a month or 2 months. And when they'll see for themselves that the quality of hardware they're getting and the uptime they're getting and the price they're paying, they'll jump on. And once you see one player after the other moving to these deepens, then the organic demands keeps increasing on its own. The only thing as a business you need to do is keep adding the value set layers so that it becomes an ecosystem where people don't approach you just for the sake of cost, but now they start to come for the whole ecosystem also. And that's what we are building. The initial value set is cost, but then the long term game is the ecosystem overall.
Well, listen, the comment you mentioned on Airbnb, I think, is particularly relevant. Um, Airbnb in 2013 raised a round led by Founders Fund at a $2.5 billion valuation. And people thought Founders Fund was nuts. They're like, what is a venture capital firm doing investing 50 or $100 million at a $2.5 billion valuation? That's not a venture investment. And it was probably the richest price Founders Fund had ever paid, right? Fast forward 10 years later, that it seems like an incredible bargain at this price, right? So I just think that it's just worth that framing is actually real. And you can find articles where people are like, 2 billion, what are these people doing? And, they saw the scale potential, and it's obviously worked out incredibly well. So I think that is a pretty prescient and pretty like tangible analogy. So I definitely think that's interesting, but that's very, very good to know. What are the other DePIN projects then that you find interesting and are tracking? What else do you find interesting in the space?
To be honest, like last 9 months, my whole focus, like 90 to 95% of the time, is just going and building ioNet. But before I came in to IO, like I was literally a follower of a lot of deepens. Uh, I was like literally following very closely Filecoin, Render, how they were innovating on their side of things, right? But since the time I've like joined IO, like trust me, even 12 hours are not enough. I'm literally spending 16 hours here just doing this platform building. So in the recent time, I've not got enough time, honestly, to look outside what these other players are doing. Uh, the only time I interact with these guys predominantly is when I go to these talks and I meet these founders, and then I get to know, okay, what innovative stuff they're doing. But I believe this. There's a whole lot of players in the market who are trying to do good for the community and the whole crypto ecosystem, right? Uh, there's Akash of the world, there's Render of the world, there's Ethers of the world, there's Filecoin. There's so many players in the market who are contributing in their own ways to make sure that as an industry we succeed. And I think we all have to work together rather than competing between us. We have to work together to basically fight with these centralized players, though, so that not just a DePIN as a crypto community as in whole we win. So unluckily I can't show you like what other of these companies right now are doing because I'm busy with this, but in past, yeah, these are the companies which I used to be a fan of.
Fair enough. Well, they're all still live and ticking and making great progress. And I've had almost all of them on this podcast. So if you want to hear what's happened in the last 6 months, you can get an update here on DePIN.
Absolutely.
Listen, thanks for coming on. Tell the people how to follow, how to add GPUs, how to if people have models they want to train or what they want to do. How do they get involved with ioNet? How do they participate?
So for me, they can actually go to LinkedIn and search for Gaurav Sharma ioNet. They can find me there. On X, I'm with Gaurav underscore IO handle. On Telegram, it's at the rate search Gaurav. They can find me. Uh, for the company to provide their GPUs, to learn about the product, the website name is io.net. Please feel free to go there, register yourself. And like we have a very comprehensive documentation on the platform. And right now, we're like intentionally adding the videos also so that a lot of people are like visual learners rather than like they like to read a lot of stuff. They're visual learners, so we are adding documentation as videos also, so they can learn how to add their workers, and if they want to like move from one hardware to another, how they can do that, and multiple other facets also. So please go to the website, refer to the documentation tab. You will find all the details there. If in case there's any feedback and you feel that any place we can do better, feel free to DM me either on LinkedIn, X, or TG. More than happy to answer and help.
Awesome. Listen, thanks so much for being on. We look forward to seeing the success. And I know we're all going to see AI continue to scale, continue to grow. And you guys are right in the center of that. So super exciting. So look forward to seeing it and have you back on when we can even have, you're further up that stack and there's more examples to talk about. Can't wait for that. Thanks again for being on.
Absolutely. Tom, it was a pleasure meeting you and being here. Thank you.